Judge Eleanor Ross and Black Boomer and Gen X women, and even some millennial women sleeping their way to the top. Queen with Soft Eye Boutique here to talk about this foolishness that just came out about federal judge Eleanor Ross, and she's was screwing a high-ranking Atlanta police law enforcement official. Okay, not only was she married and he's married, they're not married to each other, right? So y'all already having an affair. That's one thing. The biggest issue is that they were having the affair in the courthouse, in her chambers, within earshot of the law clerks and the court staff, and it basically was sounding like a scene out of West Coast Productions. If you're old school, you know what West Coast production is, okay? So this is why I keep telling y'all that black girl magic is a whole bunch of BS. Pure BS, especially as you keep rising to the top. Content warning. I went through a lot of attempted sexual harassment when I was in grad school and law school. I don't really experience it as a practicing attorney because the energy that I carry with myself now, they know not to try me. Men know not to try me because what it's going to lead to. And I'm not even talking about a lawsuit. So when I was going through grad school, but especially when I was in law school, first generation attorney, I didn't fully understand what I was walking into as far as being amongst the proverbial 2% of black attorneys in the United States. I was truly naive. I was truly green, and I did not understand that the majority of the 2% that they keep throwing around actually are more than likely the descendants of those who sold their own into slavery, the descendants of those who ratted our people out when they were trying to do uprisings and revolts. That is pretty much who you're dealing with in the 2% of black attorneys. And it's not even just the black attorneys. They're amongst the black doctors, the black pharmacists, really amongst all the black professionals. And I had no clue about that. I had a bit of a peek, an insight, a slight insight into black classism and elitism during my freshman year in undergrad when I went to Xavier University. And I actually left because it was never my grades, because I never experienced black elitism and black classism. And to be honest, I just felt that I didn't belong there, that I was just never going to fit in. And I left. Do I regret it? I really don't regret it now that I think about it, because had I continued on that trajectory in the mind state that I was at that time, I probably would have turned into being used as a tool against my own people, right? Because I was on a pre-med track. So I was going to end up being a doctor who just pretty much murks their own people, because I just listened to whatever the system told me to do as a black person, because I didn't have anybody coming before me to really show me the way. But of course, all will be revealed with that degree and that dream. But I want to go back to what I was saying about that. So I had a slight insight at that particular time, but I was an undergrad, 18-year-old college kid. I'm amongst other college students, so they came from those families that I'm amongst now as far as a practicing attorney, but we were kids, 18, 19-year-old freshmen, right? So now I'm actually within the thick of it, and I'm actually amongst the attorneys and amongst the doctors, amongst the pharmacists, amongst the engineers and the nurse practitioners, the doctors and nurse practitioners, and I see things so much clearly, right? And when I was in law school, I was going through sexual harassment after sexual harassment, And I know I can't speak for nobody else, but I know for me that I was being targeted. One, because unambiguous black woman, and then two, they knew I was first generation. So it was kind of like in their minds, they felt that I wasn't going to say anything, or I wasn't going to do anything to stand up for myself because I was in there, because I was first generation. Because they know, you don't even have to tell people you first generation. They know you're first generation. And I really believe that's why I was targeted, even though that's never an excuse. But I'm saying all that to say, of course, I stood up for myself in an appropriate way that I know to stand up for myself. And it was eventually taken care of in a manner that I felt brought me the type of justice that I believe in. But once I sat down, once I went through that, and I sat down and I started to think about all those men, right? And what they were attempting to do to me. And I started to realize, one, okay, they creeps, deviants, all of that. But then it really clicked. They approached me in the manner in which they approached me because the black women who came before me willingly went along with what they wanted. So it wasn't a situation where they were trying to force these other women to do these certain acts, right? They literally just went along with it. And a lot of those women, they were not first generation. That's just how they got down. And that hit me like a freight train. It hit me like a freight train because the wheels started turning, and I was just like, how many other women just have been just going along with the get along with this? And I became so angry. Y'all excuse me, my allergies are just on one. But I became so angry when I realized that so many of these women, but I just put the white women to the side, but so many of these black women who came before us got on their back, got on their knees, bent over, and they felt that that was what it was going to take to get them in these particular positions. And what they don't really, because obviously if you do that for a grade or a job, you don't care about those who coming behind you. So when a woman does that, when she negotiates her body or some type of sexual exchange for a grade of all things, a letter, an alphabet, a degree, some type of job or career, when she negotiates her body for that, that's not a form of feminism. She does not care about any other woman or girl who comes behind her, because what that does is that actually makes it 1,000 times worse for the girls and the women who are coming behind her, because then they have to engage in more. And then you have people like me who those things never even crossed my mind, because I've always been very academically inclined. So I never had to do anything sexually for a grade, for a job, or a career. That's something that is literally not in me. So I faced so many more obstacles because I chose not to put out. But the reason why those obstacles were there in the first place was because the women, I don't want to say all of them, but a lot of women before me just refused to hold the line. And what people need to realize is, and I'm going to reiterate this, I've said this already, when a woman exchanges her body for a grade, for a degree, or for a job or a career or some type of position of power, in no way, shape, form, or fashion does she help any woman or girl who's coming behind her. So she's not in those positions to do anything to help further the cause for girls and women and better it. It just does not work that way. And so to see Judge Eleanor Ross doing this, and it's something that I've always spoken out about, black girl magic, whoever the last remaining of the solid generation, boomers and Gen Xers, these black women who are amongst those generations, the majority of them are very wicked. They're very, very wicked. And people really need, so I'm talking about, if you look, I'm talking about narcissists, sociopaths, and psychopaths. People think that females cannot have those types of personality disorders, but they do. And a lot of black women in these positions of powers have those personality traits as well, right? It's really, really bad, especially amongst attorneys and judges. I actually would rather practice in front of a MAGA judge or have a MAGA opposing counsel than deal with opposing counsel who is a black female who's from silent generation, the few that's lingering on, a boomer or a Gen X, or go in front of a black female judge. It is what it is. I know people gonna share this. I really don't care. People know I'm telling the truth, right? And y'all need to go ahead and give me my prophetess robes, okay? Because I've been telling people that the truth is coming out and more of them are being exposed, and y'all going to start seeing more and more black professional women, not just black female attorneys. You're going to start seeing more and more black professional women of these generations, the remaining of the silent generation, boomers, Gen X, but especially the boomers, but especially more so the Gen X because they still relatively young. You're going to see a lot of them being disciplined, being called out, the truth of who they are in these so-called positions of powers. That a lot of that is going to come to light. And I really want people to just take a step back. If we're going to bring it back just to attorneys, okay, with all that's going on in the United States politically. Oh, there's only 2% of black attorneys. 2% is a lot. That is a lot of people. It is not a small number. Okay, so there's nowhere that I have ever been that I have not come across another black attorney. So you can do a lot of damage to the system, good damage, good trouble to the system with 2%. You don't even need 2%, 0.5%. You can do a lot of good trouble and good damage to the system and shake it up. So what people really need to realize is they in these positions, even if they saying that they doing civil rights, even if they're saying they're for the people and all that, behind the scenes, y'all would be surprised what really goes on. These people do not care. They don't give a damn. Okay? So there's no way in hell that it should be 2026 and we still dealing with modern day Jim Crow laws in full effect in the United States of America. And that just, the proof is right there. You cannot escape it. These people have not been doing anything when they've gotten in these positions. It's really, I can go on and on and on about this, but I'm trying to keep my video short. But Judge Eleanor Ross, she was out of line. My thing is, why couldn't you get a hotel? Why wouldn't you not? If you want to have an affair, if you want to do that, fine. Do that on your own time and get a hotel room and let that be that. But she didn't do it. And this is where we're at. Y'all got to be careful about calling for black people to be in a lot of these positions, because this is usually what you're going to end up getting. Okay, so be mindful of what type of black person, because you can't just say you want a black person in this position. You have to specifically ask for a specific type of black person to be in these positions of power in order for there to be some type of change going on. And I don't want to keep y'all long. I just wanted to get on here, talk about this. Queen with Soft Eye Boutique.